Good evening, good evening. Welcome to your life. Cause everybody wants to rule the world. Hey! Hey, what's up, everybody? It is I, Miss Sophia the Diva. I know it has been a very, very long time since I've been on YouTube, but I have really been trying to regroup and think what it is I really want to do with my channel other than log on here randomly and talk about random stuff. I definitely really don't want to delve too much into the political because too many of these social media things are censoring us for trying to share knowledge. I mean, even the pre-digital, we talking analog vehicles are pretty much censored these days. So I don't know. Y'all know I'm totally into true crime, so I've been kind of exploring that. So it's kind of why I haven't, been on here, kind of trying to do some research on these different things. But we are not here to dwell on that too long. I don't know who's joining. I bet it's too late because I know my friend Abby wanted to join the conversation, but we can always do another discussion at another time. I unfortunately have been very, very sick. I actually started getting sick like last Saturday, Sunday night, and thank God we were off. Well, it was Sunday night I started to get sick. Monday we were off for President's Day, and it just went downhill from there. I'm sure that you can probably hear the congestion that I still have. But when I tell y'all, I feel like I could get up and go run a marathon right now, which I know that's not going to happen. But I feel so much better. And I said, I've been sick before with a cold. I've even been sick with COVID. I don't know what the hell this was. It was worse than the flu. I said, hell, at this point, I welcome the flu because at least with the flu, all you want to do is sleep. Okay. This stuff was just miserable and basically had me crying out, Lord, Lord, Jesus, help me, Father God, please. So I feel much better. I mean, everybody's like, oh, you're sick again. And I'm like, I didn't post about being sick. Carl Smith, I'm going to sleep. Okay, good night. Hey, everybody. Thank you all for joining the conversation. So, anyways, yeah, I've been really, really sick, more sick than what I wanted to be. But yesterday and today is the first couple of days I've actually felt good because I was sick for over a week and my silly self kept pushing myself to go to work. And I'm going to get into the discussion. Just give me a second. What happened is that me being me, I'm a warrior. I really am because I trained to be one under Uncle Sam. But I always tell people take care of yourselves, but I felt so bad because we're in the middle of tax season in my full-time job. And I didn't want to be, not at work because last week I missed 2 days with cluster migraines. I don't know where the hell those came from, but I've always had migraines, but this was the worst for 2 days. My head hurt and it wasn't my blood pressure. So it was migraines and the Imatrix wasn't working. But anyways, how many of you all here in my discussion so far took time out, like I did, to watch America's Next Top Model reality check on Netflix? And how many of you were actually there when it was airing back in 2003? And I was talking to one of my besties today and I said, I must have been in law school when America's Next Top Model dropped because I said, I kind of remember it was the early 2000s, but I don't really remember. And so I went and looked it up and it said it was like 2003, right? So anyway, before I even watched it, I posted on some of my social media. I basically said that, let me say this. And this is what I said. I said, let me say this. I said, some of y'all, I get it. Y'all mad at Tyra, whatever. It was a horrible experience for you. I said, but some of you all that are complaining probably wouldn't be where you are today without Tyra. And I still kind of stand on that because one of the things many people fail to realize is that the fashion and beauty industry is a cruel place to be. Okay. These people do not care about your feelings. They do not care about your mental health. They do not care about your health. All they care about is, can you do this job? Can you model these clothes? Can you help us sell these expensive brands? And they're only this expensive because of whose name is on it and who wants it, the supply and demand factor, okay? And those that can actually afford it. They don't care. And if Tyra had not given these girls that experience, I mean, what was she supposed to do? Practice gentle parenting with them? But at the same time, I will say, looking at it through the 2026 lens, some of that, it just went off the rails at one point. I don't even remember when I stopped watching. It may have been the cycle out the Eva one. I don't know. But because at that time she was going by Eva Pickford and then she became Eva Marcel. Excuse me. Now she's Eva Marcel Sterling, I think. Again. But either way, yes, it was toxic. And yes, some of the things that they had some of these women go through was not model related. I can't remember who it was. I don't know if it was Kenya or who it was that was sharing that the portfolio that was built through America's Next Top Model, she couldn't even use the photos because they were just too over the top. And I can see that because in the fashion and beauty industry, if you look, like for instance, I grew up reading Vogue and what was it? Vogue. Actually, Harper's Bazaar was my favorite fashion magazine over Vogue. And, you know, if you look at the print ads there, they are not the over top. They don't have people doing wild and crazy things like, I don't know, getting in a bathtub full of tarantulas and worms and posing and making it look like you're comfortable and cool with this. You know, jumping out of airplanes and stuff. I don't know. I mean, some of the stuff was just outright ridiculous. But some of the things that those young ladies experienced right there in the moment in the judges panel, there is a Janice Dickinson in the industry. And that was one of the biggest disappointments. Where was her coked out ass? Okay. Where was she? Y'all know Janice was on the coke real bad. She just was out there. But she was one of the meanest ones. I mean, she would just come out and say, "Oh, this girl is too fat," and the girl would be like, would have a waist that you could like cinch. I could cinch my you know, my pointer and my thumb around. Okay, that just but unfortunately that's the industry. They want you to be a size 0. And, you know, if you can be a negative, that's what they want. Because the whole thing when it comes to high fashion, especially when you think of the fashion houses, Givenchy, Armani, I still don't know why people are buying Gucci, but okay, Gucci, unless it's Dapper Dan, since they stole most of his stuff. If they're looking for people where everyone can be the same size. They make one outfit and they throw it on you. That's why they call it sample sizes and stuff. Because I think the biggest size probably would be a size 2. I get that. But at the same time, there are so many different avenues in the fashion and beauty industry until it's like, I get what Tyra was trying to do. Because when you think about Takara, and when she was on there, I don't remember what cycle Takara was on. I always thought she was a beautiful, voluptuous woman. You know, she would go on these go-sees and they didn't have anything in her size. It was ridiculous. But you do. She ain't that big. I mean, because I think in the beauty industry, I think being a size 10 is considered plus size. Okay. And I remember y'all remember John Casablancas? I think it's still around. I don't know. I remember my parents took me to John Casablancas. I am 5'11", and there was a time when I had no curves, no nothing. Okay. But I also had an insecurity about my gap as well. I will say this for John Casablancas, although I did not participate because my parents did not want to pay out the thousands of dollars that they were asking for to get my portfolio done and all of that. But I'm just glad I never got involved in that industry. Yeah, because I'm 5'11". I was really, really skinny. I was looking at a picture of myself from high school. I was like, damn, I was really skinny. And didn't even realize that it had no butt, no nothing. And then by freshman year of college, I have a butt and no waist, damn near. Because I remember I went to college a size 8 and came back like a size 5. Okay. Because I mean, I didn't have a car, so I had to walk all over campus. And, but I had a butt then. I got some kind of way the butt showed up. Never had any much of breast size, chest size. So that was good. But it did open my eyes to stuff. Was Tyra apologetic? Not really. Do you expect someone like Tyra to be apologetic? No. I don't want to place, excuses for her, but from a psychological standpoint, a human growth and development standpoint, when you think about the human brain and the prefrontal cortex and how it develops for males and females, the majority of scientists will tell you that the frontal lobe doesn't fully develop until age 25 for most males. And they'll say it for women too, but women still tend to mature a little bit faster. Mentally, our rationale and things tend to develop a little bit faster. And I think by Tyra going into the industry at age 16, 17 years old and being pretty much on her own at that time, I think that there were some things that formulated in her growth, the finalization of her growth and development that affects the way she maneuvers and thinks that what she's doing is okay and it's harmless. There's nothing wrong with what I did. I think by far one of the worst and most egregious things, and I said, hell, I watched this and I totally missed all of that. But then too, again, I was in law school when the season dropped, and that was a guilty pleasure for me because I was in the dungeon, as I like to call it. I was always in the basement of the library in some corner in a cut or a study room studying. Excuse me. And Shandy's, I just don't understand how I don't understand how production could, didn't want to break, what is it called, the fourth wall. Because anytime, we all know, even back then, I think all of us knew, you can't give consent when you're under the influence of something. You can't clearly give consent. And I think Shandy was all of 19 years old? Production, y'all been filming this the whole time. Y'all knew that girl had been drinking copious amounts of wine. You knew that there was no way she could have given consent. Y'all had a rule where if they go in the bathroom alone, don't go in there. But if it's two or more are gathered, yeah, we gonna go in and film. Why? People are asleep and you're filming this. Okay, this girl technically was essayed. Okay, that's what happened to her. And then you made her call this man and y'all filmed it. And, she had to call her boyfriend and tell him before, anything came out. And then had to call the young man who maybe in his mind he thought, she wants this. I mean, she was giving him, and he probably didn't have no wherewithal either to realize, oh, she don't want me. But I'm going to take it. I wouldn't say that it was the pure definition. It appeared to be, he made her interpret it being, and I'm trying to tread lightly because I don't want anyone to think I'm insensitive. I've been in situations where I'm kind of like, what are you going to do, Afia? Because we got to get up out of here. Shit, I just think about one night when I graduated from high school, some stuff happened. I wonder where that weirdo is. I don't remember his name. He tried it, but I got him good. I'll have to tell y'all this story for another day. But Shandy, what happened to her was very unfortunate. And that girl don't even look anything like who she used to be. And the fact that when Tyra had her talk show, she went on there and Shandy kept telling you she didn't want to deal with this. The fact that even when she was on the show itself and she kept saying she wanted to leave and, she basically had to cry, plead, and just say, I don't want to be here. You know, I hope she got counseling. But, I think, did she say she was still working down to the Walgreens? Jesus, I hope not. But, I mean, Tyra, you do an executive producer. And then Jay and Nigel and Miss J and Janice Dickerson, and I forgot who the other man was that showed up that always looked like an evil villain with his little sidekick Chihuahua, whatever kind of dog it was he had. Everybody was complicit in something, but it was a product of the time, and these are people who actually had been in the industry for years and understood the toxicity of it. What they should have done and done a better job is educating these women and making it a little clearer and more defined about you will have days where people will treat you like you do not matter as a human being and that you are an inanimate object and you are there to serve one purpose and one purpose only. Look good, do the job, get in, get out with no lip, no complaints. We don't want to hear complaints. Yes, there are eating disorders in the industry. Many models will tell you they had eating disorders because they do whatever they can to stay skinny. I think that, there was colorism going on, even, some subconscious, stuck in the subconscious minds of others, racism, possibly discriminatory practices. Ebony, I totally forgot her, but then when I saw her, I remembered her. Very beautiful, dark-skinned queen. They did her all kinds of dirty. And, the whole hair thing, I was like, what was the purpose of that? Her hair was just fine the way it was. There was no need to do anything with it, but they screwed up her hair. And then, Tyra made her feel like it was going to be a sisterhood, and it wasn't. Instead, Tyra, the first conversation she has when they're one-on-one is the fact that people are complaining about her being allegedly ashy. That girl was not ashy. And then how her roommates, some of the other models that were there were making comments about, the stuff you're using. And I said, no wonder during the pandemic, some of y'all didn't know that Black people have been lotioning their bodies for years, calling it slugging. I'm slugging. No, baby, it's called moisturization. That's what it is. I remember when I was in the military, when I was still in boot camp and MP school, I remember, I think it was just me, Private Benson. Yeah, me and Private Benson. I think we were the only two Black females in our platoon. And, we used cocoa butter. Probably shouldn't have been using it because it's true. When you're out in the fields, you don't want anything to smell you. But hell, we didn't know shit. We were still learning. And I remember there was a fascination with that. There really was, So I said, and that was like 1997 when I was doing that. So, yeah, that was wrong. That girl wasn't ashy. That woman, that she had melanin was popping. Okay. Now Tyra, you might have been looking a little ashy. Okay. But you didn't have to tell that girl that because you knew it wasn't true. And I guess maybe they thought that would make for good TV. And we all know that there is a stigma that comes with being labeled ashy in the Black community. Okay. I mean, they had to pay Kevin Durant recently. Survey had to pay him to moisturize. Okay. What is that? So anyway, I think it's really unfortunate that some of these girls' mental health suffered after this. But I also think that the reality, I think that Tyra and them gave them initially when the show started out, which was the intent to give them the industry standard and treatment that you do get when you go, to audition and go sees, as they call them. These people can be very cruel and heartless. One of my best friends, one of my sorority sisters, she was a model for a time, and she can tell you this it's real out there. It's raw and real. I even compared it at one point to what it was like when I was in the military. F your feelings. They don't care, and Lord, what is. So while it is a regulated industry, I don't know what is going on, y'all. Excuse me. I think we have a drunk fly in the house. But it is raw and real, and people are cruel. And I liken it to that. I mean, it was models boot camp initially. I don't know what happened to the show after a while. I did find it interesting that Jay Manuel, who, by the way, y'all, I never knew Jay Manuel was black. I did not know that. As a matter of fact, let me look up where Cape Malay. Because he said his mom is white, Italian and Czech. They are a distinct South African group. Muslims, yeah. I don't know, but either way, he said he's black, and I did not know that. I always thought he was Latino, of Latino descent, but I was wrong. But Jay Manuel tried to leave after cycle 5 or something like that, or cycle 9. I don't remember. And then ended up losing his job. He said that Tyra started moving funny after he said that he wanted to leave. He didn't share it with anyone. He only shared it with her. He felt like they had a really good friendship. And it turns out that Tyra is surface level. She truly does not know how to be a friend, or she was just hurt because she wrote him back and said she was disappointed. Nigel, I had no idea Nigel was South Asian and British. I guess, was it British? I don't remember. I guess they wanted to clarify that for us because they told them to go get a straight white man to do the photography and be on the judges panel. And that's what they got. And Lord knows he takes great pictures. But, Miss J, of course, that was really sad. And I'm like, Tyra really just don't know how to be a friend to nobody but herself. Okay. But Jay Manuel wanted to leave because he knew what was going on wasn't right and he wasn't comfortable with it. And then he had to he got shelved in a way. Tyra and him were no longer cool and not speaking. I find that really interesting. And most unfortunate, because if I tell you I no longer want to do something, and if you feel like it's going to destroy our friendship, then were you ever really a friend? Apparently my mental health and peace of mind doesn't matter. And I think that's how Jay Manuel should look at it. I do think that, him and Miss J and Nigel did make a great team. But I think all of them, honestly, here's the thing. We see it every day in the industry, from any form of entertainment that you can think of, where people behave a certain way, but yet you move in silence because you want to retain your well-being and economic status, or status in some respects. And I think, honestly, that's what they were doing. Before Jay came on America's Next Top Model, he was working with Iman and David Bowie. Okay. He was their makeup artist and beauty consultant. And then he ended up on America's Next Top Model, because in that industry, it's gigging. Where's my next gig? That's why you see so many people passing away these days. And these actors' families are asking for GoFundMe. Because you're only as rich as your next gig. Okay. And it costs a lot to keep that machine going. So I don't know if maybe that was the reason. Is that a legitimate excuse? No. But like I said, sometimes people don't have that spiritual connection or belief in something or somebody. I consider myself a Christian, not a Christian that follows the orange guy. Truly believe in doing good and having goodwill towards others. And I think that's, if you have a conscience and if you believe that God will open doors and present opportunities or whatever you believe in, the universe, whatever, I think you'll move differently. We know that there are artists out there who would give the performance of a lifetime and leave it all on stage, but go home and knock their significant other between the washer and dryer because the toast wasn't toasted right. We know this, but yet we still support these people. I mean, think about James Brown, okay, Ike Turner, trying to think who else. So many that we don't know about. And yet you still support them and people would see it and did nothing because they like, I got to keep the lights on. And I think that's what happened with them. Tyra claims that when it came time to let go of the triplets, the two J's and Nigel, it was because the new president of the CW or whatever company it was that was over the CW network, even though they were posting numbers every cycle, they didn't care. He didn't care. He wanted them gone. And that was a setup. And Tyra should have seen that. I can tell you right now, anytime you catch somebody removing the core out of your show, these people are pretty much telling you they don't want you anymore on their network, which is really interesting, which lets me know money was not an object for this president, because definitely that was definitely a discriminatory move. I'll say that. But the way that Miss J said, for my birthday, Tyra got me flowers. And I'm wondering, did Tyra not get him flowers every year for his birthday? Probably not. And I said, hell, sometimes in some circles, if you get a bouquet of flowers on your birthday, that means death is coming. Mob ties. And that's what happened. She pulled the plug. She said, even bosses have bosses. And she said that the dude said there are no sacred cows. Well, fast forward, Tyra ends up getting removed from her own show by this man. For the life of me, I don't understand the why. But and then but even after they got let go, they said the show just went completely off the rails. And I don't even know when that happened, because I don't even know. I must have stopped watching after law school, because I graduated law school in '06. It started in 2003. Yeah, I think that was the last time I pretty much watched it. Okay. Because when the other lady was there that ran the network, things were good. And after that, it just went off the rails. And then how do you get rid of the founder and host? Like, that makes no sense. This is her show. This is Tyra Banks, America's Next Top Model. But honestly, Tyra just lacks the requisite emotional intelligence, probably due to her early upbringings in the modeling industry and being raised up in it. She don't know. Y'all just need to pray for Sister Tyra, okay? I mean, the lady is out here making microwave popcorn. I mean, not microwave popcorn, microwave ice cream. Talking about it's hot ice cream. Girl, isn't spicy, because how you make it's ice and hot. They don't even go together unless it's icy hot. I mean, that's why I just call it microwave ice cream. Oh, and she lives in Australia now. Did y'all peep that? Not to mention, why this heifer sit up there after all these girls are crying and pouring their heart out, and she sits there in her "Where in the World is Carmen Sandiego" jacket, and it's just kind of like, We're getting ready for cycle 25. What? Or season 25. I'm like, is that what this was for? Like to onboard us, to lure us in, to watch America's Next Top Model? Baby, that ship has sailed. How do you not know this? Okay. Although some people might be into it, but one of the things I always find interesting. So, of course, during the pandemic, so many people watched, binge watched this show, and of course, oftentimes you'll hear most of the hooting and hollering from the participation trophy generations, the millennials and Gen Z. I'm just like, y'all couldn't have survived Gen X, man. Y'all just, oh my God, that's toxic. I remember when Girlfriends came out. Oh my God, Tony Childs was so toxic. They need to get rid of this show. Oh my God. I'm just like, listen, we were all caught up in the toxicity because some of us actually live that reality with our friends. I tell people the story all the time. I had a friend, we came up in comedy and people could never understand why I was friends with this lady, but I saw something in her that she didn't even see in herself. And, ultimately she ended up getting mad at me for some petty reason because I care about people. And I just, told her I was excited for her and she got mad and we are no longer friends. And plus she's pretty radical about some things too. And I'm just like, girl, I get it, but damn. You know. But either way, I really don't know. A lot of people are outraged by or gaslit in some respects. But I do think when it came to Ebony, Tyra, you owe her an apology. You really messed up that lady's psyche. Shandy, especially. And Shandy, I don't know if she did because she didn't say anything about it. But in that moment, in that time, those people were liable to you. They owe you some money. Okay. You should have sued the hell out of them. The network, you probably could have sued them all jointly and severably. Okay. Tyra individually, Ken Mock individually, the network, whomever. Okay. Because what happened to her was very unfortunate. And, my Aunt Betty used to always say, if you lie, you steal, and if you steal, you kill. And people often think that's a physical death. You can kill somebody's spirit. And Tyra is damn near a serial killer, okay, in this respect, okay? Shandy, that just was terrible. Ebony, that was terrible. Some of the other young ladies, that one young lady who I think she won and it didn't work out because Tyra said, I knew you were struggling. Was it Kenya? No, what was her name? Tyra told that girl, I knew you were struggling and I did nothing to help. I knew you were going to have problems. Excuse me? There is no girls code in modeling, I guess. And, I tell people Devil Wear Prada should have showed y'all that. Hell, what's the name of that movie that we all watched? Showgirls. That should have told you that too. No girl code. People are nice, nasty at times, okay? I mean, it just is what it is, but I'm not trying to be callous about it, but that's cold. That's cold. Her feelings are very valid for that. I'm trying to think who else. The lady that was literally being sexually assaulted right in front, excuse me, essayed out of a shoot, and I will give Tyra grace on that because Tyra said I gave her the best information that I thought I could give her at the time. And I get that. You're right. This is some advice I can give you in this moment in time. Things might be different now. I hope they are, but I doubt it. I mean, the cruelty of the modeling industry is just ridiculous. And it's really ridiculous because people are so pretentious and put on such a facade and this need to have these labels. And don't get me wrong, if I could afford some of them I would, but I'll tell anybody I'm a classic lady. There are certain brands that I want that I feel are staples. Many houses that have been developed. I'm a fan of Italian, except for Gucci. But I don't think I own anything Gucci. I used to, I have a Gucci case for one of my sunglasses, designer sunglasses I have, but they're not Gucci. It was the only case we could find in Nordstrom Rack that would fit that size glass. I think those are one of my Alexander McQueen's. But I do love Bali. I love Salvatore Ferragamo. I love Cassetti. Giuseppe Zanotti. Those are things that you'll find in my closet. Yeah. And, especially when it comes to leather goods. So I don't know how they treat their models. I do love Yves Saint Laurent. God rest his soul. But I just think it's really unfortunate that Tyra, really just did this to kind of launch the show coming back. I don't know what network it's coming on. But some of the girls, I'm like, you kind of should have known. Like that one girl who was crying. I don't know if she was Latina or what. Crying about, not getting picked or just knew she was supposed. I forgot what. And she was one of the ones that was mean to Ebony anyway. So, girl, whatever. What was her name? Elise. I wonder what happened to her. And then Adrian, I forgot what her name is. They say Adrian is she wasn't asked to be on there, but she was like totally off the rails. Now I heard she's part of the Orange Crew, the Orange Colts, the Orange Clown Colts. Angry Wig, as I refer to him. She's part of that now. She had issues anyway, baby. She win and her career went nowhere. Instead, she went and chased down old dude Peter Brady and had a baby by him, and that shit didn't work out. Yeah, they need to, but I want them to dig up Janice Dickinson. That's who we need to talk to. Okay, y'all mad at everybody else, but I'm mad at her mostly because she was just psycho. I said maybe they couldn't get her because she probably was on some sort of new coke binge or something. I don't know. With her botched surgery having self. And then what else happened on here I wanted to touch on because it was something else that just came through my thought processes about that before I talk about Jay Alexander, Miss J. What else happened during this yeah, tired no sacred cows. Okay, girl. Okay, Miss Tyra. A lot of people say they don't like Tyra. I'm like, Tyra just is who she is, child. I mean, can't just make this up. She is who she is. And like I said, she just lacks the requisite emotional intelligence that some of us will tend to develop. But unfortunately, what happens is that a lot of people don't have the wherewithal or the mental state to convert negative experiences into positive ones. Instead, they become what others treated them like when they were down and out. That happens far too often. That's why we have preyed victims who become predators themselves. Okay. Very unfortunate. I'm really trying to think what the hell else happened because it was a thought that came. That's why I need to start back writing notes and keeping notes because otherwise I'm just going to ramble. And I don't want to ramble because I'm probably going to end up having to come back on here and talk about this anyways because I know there are certain people that want to comment on it. But modeling industry, it ain't for the weak. Okay? Entertainment industry is not for the weak. Your feelings will be hurt, okay? Hell, the military ain't for the weak either, because your feelings will be hurt. There are a lot of things, and it's really one of the more unregulated, will overlook some things industry too. I mean, now there's a little bit more going on since Me Too, since the convictions of people like Bill Cosby and Weinstein, you know, but I just, until someone wakes up and says it doesn't, we don't have to use abusive practices in on the mental side to get people to perform in the manner in which we perform, unless there is a certain reaction or look that you want, getting people to cry, or getting people to be angry about something, I don't know, but I will say this from a psychological standpoint. You really, when you go on these reality shows like this, you really need to be prepared for protecting your mental health in some form or fashion, and getting counseling afterwards if need be. I know some people said they left there with eating disorders. They gonna tell you you're fat. Hell, I got told I was fat in the military. I remember I was like 175 pounds, 5'11", muscle. You're fat. You're gonna be in a breakfast club. Say what now? Because the scale showed that I was like 200 and something, but that scale that was in the guy's bay it was like somebody hadn't calibrated it right, so it made it look like you had 15, 20 extra pounds that were non-existent. And I didn't feel any type of way, but there were some young women who took it to heart. I remember one time I caught one of my one of my squad members like in the bathroom throwing up after dinner because they told her she was fat, and the girl was only like 5'1" and probably 100 pounds dripping wet, if even that. Whatever the tallest height was you could be to be an MP, that's how tall she was, and was skinny, had no butt, and she was fat and was in the breakfast club. We had one girl who would eat very little and then during our free time would take off running around base because they allowed us to go run around base. They were at Fort McClellan. I'm like, in anything that you do, but in the military, I get it because you don't know what type of situation you're going to end up in. I'm fortunate I didn't have to go nowhere, but I was reservist. I ended up not being activated or even having to do anything. But I'm not trying to compare the modeling industry to that, but in some ways it is. I mean, you show up, you might get your feelings hurt. Every day you might get your feelings hurt. But you have to develop thick skin, and not everyone's capable of doing that, you know. But you just gotta toughen up and accept it for what it is. And then some lady, I didn't know that they had done a cycle where they brought back the winners or whatever, and she lost the prize and got mad because she didn't disclose the fact that she had been involved in some criminal activities. I said, well, now in this day and age, it don't matter if you get busted for doing anything wrong, because it's okay to be wrong. It's wrong to be right. I mean, it's right to be wrong. hmm you can be convicted, and it's okay. You can do wrong all day long. Just commit all types of crimes and take treasonous actions and be okay. Just saying. I know I look rough. Y'all just don't understand. I'm looking at myself in the camera. Ooh, Afee, you look tired. I am tired. Whatever this was, because I ended up never making it to urgent care, by the way. I just kind of, the one thing that was missing in my arsenal that could have probably knocked out 90% of the congestion was my black seed oil. My friend was laughing at me. He told me, you doing all this hokey pokey medicine? I'm like, you laughing? But how do you think medicine even got started? All they do is accelerate properties of things that actually do fix the problem, right? Oregano is a natural antibiotic. So I guess oregano oil, but I've never tried that. But yeah, my black seed oil I didn't have, and I know now I left it at the casita that I was staying in when I first lived here. So I ordered some from Amazon the other day. So hopefully it'll be here. But everybody in my office was freaking sick. I'm like, dude, if you know you sick, you got a tickle in your throat. Respect everyone and just throw a mask on. Shit, or don't show up. I wore a mask every day. One of my managers like, "Are you trying to avoid getting sick or are you sick?" I'm like, "I'm sick, but don't worry about it. I got you." Shout out to Vogue Mask, VOGMASK, best mask on the market. When you talk about basic consumer reusable mask, anyway. There was I keep talking because there's something else I want to talk about, but I don't know. Y'all let me know what y'all thought about America's Next Top Model. I do think that Tyra, you need to mend some fences and build some bridges because Jay Alexander been down with you for like forever, and you knew this man had a stroke, and you couldn't go see him. What did you think you were going to catch the stroke? Like, would it have messed up your day to take a moment to say, let me go check on someone who was down with me since damn near day one since I've been modeling? Like, that's selfish. And that just goes to show what type of person you are, Miss Banks. You know, I don't think you get it. You don't get it. That was your friend, and he is hurt. You could not go see Jay Alexander. Miss J. And I felt so bad for him. It really broke my heart because he was sitting there and he said he don't even know what happened. All he know, he woke up and he had been in a coma for like 5 weeks, I think, and couldn't talk, couldn't walk. And I know what it's like after you have a stroke or an aneurysm or anything like that. One of my friends, I'll never forget, it freaked me out. But I did go see her. And to this day, I feel bad about it because I left California. I don't even know if she's got the same phone number. God forgive me, because that. But I did go see her afterwards, and it freaked me out because she was talking to me. She knew everything that I was talking about because we used to love talk about housewives back in the day. And then she started talking. It came out like gobbledygook. Like you didn't know what she was saying, at all because the words are scrambled. Like she knew what she was saying, but they weren't coming out. So, I mean, I understand that, but you could have taken time to see. And then when you knew that y'all were filming this, you going to send a text message as if that was going to cover a multitude of sins. Baby, you ain't Jesus. You ain't God. You need to go see your friend. Check on your friend. People that's been down with you, I would never. I would never. You know, you can't do people like that. It's wrong. I mean, it's just wrong, and it broke my heart. But I saw Jay Manuel posted that Miss J took some steps. He's been in physical therapy for quite some time now, and he's putting in the work and getting results because he knew he was going to walk again, and I believe he is going to walk again. But I just think that it's really unfortunate that Tyra has not gone to see him for whatever reason. And then, people were talking about how oh, excuse me, how she's kind of spread out. Okay, so she did have a baby via surrogate in 2016. Oh, oh shit, I didn't know that. I thought that baby was just born. Smize and Dream. That's the name of her ice cream brand. Um, let's see. So Tyra, oh, January 2016, a result of her journey with fertility struggles and her relationship with Norwegian photographer Eric Asla, her then partner. She cherishes motherhood, calling York her everything. The baby's name is York Banks Asia. Excuse me, Asla. I did not know that child was that old. York has his mom's fingers and eyes, and his dad's mouth, his chin, and is multilingual. He speaks English, Spanish, Norwegian, and French. Well, I pray that baby has more of a heart than Miss Tyra Banks, because clearly Miss Banks is very heartless. How could you be so heartless? Yeah, it's like she has no soul. I mean, I don't know. But I really, in the end, I think that Tyra really did start out with the best intentions. But I think that as the show progressed and wanting to keep the network executives happy, there were some decisions made that ultimately led to doing more harm than good to females in the industry. It's very unfortunate. Clearly some of these women were underexposed to any type of diverse surroundings. I can tell you that that occurs in the military too. You'll meet people, like my drill sergeant shared, she had never seen a black person in real life until she joined the military, because in her little town of Maine, there were no black people. She thought that it was makeup. Oh, that's it. That's one of the things. Y'all, why did we sit up there and watch them do blackface and play in our faces? Had people swap cultures and skin tones. And then the grand finale of it all. I forgot what that child's name was. Remember when Tyra, I was rooting for you. We were all rooting for you. And she went off on this one chick. So let me look up and see who she is. That, I think maybe that was the other thing I wanted to talk about. But that black face, white face, that was wild. I said, Lord Jesus, that was wild. Like, how we even get here, Jesus? Who thought that was a good idea? Model rooting for you. Um, the girl who pushed Tyra. Let me see. This is but Tiffany Richardson doesn't need you to root for her anymore. Okay, Tiffany Richardson. So Tiffany, round the way girl, had some anger management problems. What I did not know is that the network liked her so much and Tyra liked her so much until they gave her a second chance. They even got her help. Okay. And something happened during a shoot. And it wasn't a shoot. They were trying to get them to read from a teleprompter, read all these designer names. And Tiffany kind of just gave up. She did not want to complete the assignment. And I'm like, some of these brands and labels, these young ladies have never even seen a day in their life. Okay. You know, hell, before I knew anything, I never knew how to pronounce Givenchy. I used to call it Gavinci because that's what it looks like to me. That's one thing I hate about the French language. Oh my God, it's so complicated. I tried to take French too. That's why all I know is a tout le père comment. What is it? Tout le père comment? What else? Bonjour, mon ami. Yeah, that's pretty. Because I remember I told somebody, I said for the longest I thought Versailles was Versailles. Okay. But I get it. It's a challenge, but I guess she really didn't want to put her back into it and say with her whole chest. Next thing you know, they said Tyra went completely off the rails. Everyone was in shock. And then we find out she went even further and said a whole editing did a good job of editing out a lot of stuff. Oh, because when she told her to leave, she felt like she was entire just got angrier and angrier. The more she giggled and laughed. And I'm like, what you don't realize, sometimes people laugh in uncomfortable situations. Uh, but Tyra wasn't trying to hear it, because, normies will always tell you that you're acting inappropriately to their like, at least for their taste. And so she went off on Tiffany. That was 11 years ago. And let me see. What else did Tyra say in that moment? Um, she said something about you can go back. What did she say? Okay, so it was cycle 3. After challenging the dance off, Richards took on one who then poured beer on her weave. Oh, that's what happened in cycle 3. She got into a confrontation and got kicked off, and then they brought her back in cycle 4. She said it was beautiful for TV. They love to see black girls struggling and somebody coming to save her. I will say that that's true. Um, she said, but I'm trying to see. Okay, I don't know exactly what the quote was, but what we didn't see that they didn't show us when they showed us Tiffany's scene and Tyra going off and saying that we were rooting for you. Apparently, Tyra, in addition to that, added some other colorful words and phrases and languages and sentences and basically told her that she can go back to her dirty, um, let me see, let's see, mattress. Oh, she said you can go back to your house and sleep on your mattress on the floor with your baby. And she didn't go any further than that, but Jay Manuel said to this day he did not want to repeat that. And then somebody else said that all they know is the next week or the next season, the lawyers were there. And I was like, so the lawyers were there for that, but they weren't there for Shandy's rape? Oh, excuse me, her her unwanted bedtime with a man. Okay. Uh, Wild. And I couldn't help but to wonder if maybe Tyra saw a little bit of herself in there. I don't remember Tyra's background. I just remember Tyra was raised in Inglewood, and people don't realize that, a lot of people think that not everything in Inglewood is all good, but it is. There's some really nice neighborhoods in Inglewood. So I don't know what her full background is. I think her mom was single, raising her and her brother. Um, let's see. Where in Inglewood did Tyra Banks live? God, I miss LA. It's too expensive. Where she lived during her early childhood was someone was mentioning her upbringing on Second Avenue, while born and raised in this Los Angeles suburb. She attended school in Los Angeles rather than Inglewood before starting her modeling career at 15. So she lived somewhere off of Second Avenue, and I'm not familiar enough to know. But I don't know, maybe she saw her or somebody. I don't know. But either way, I'm gonna try to do a little bit better. I might be back on here again to oh, excuse me, to talk a little bit more about America's Next Top Model if some of my friends want me to. But thank you all who did join the conversation. Comment down below. Let me know what you thought. I'm gonna have to get off here because I'm starting to cough. I can't suppress it, so that means I've talked too long. Anyways, thank you all for joining. I have been Miss Sophia the Diva. And remember, the wolf is always at the door. All right. And what was my oh, before I go, And remember, what does Diva always, the lesson we will always learn is don't get caught up in the trick bag. And I think America's Next Top Model was a trick bag because a lot of these people did not ascend to the heights that even Marcel, who was shook it and godsmacked by being part of a club and didn't know all this was going on in the club. I said, girl, it happens because try being in a sorority. You'll find out there was some stuff going on while you were around and you didn't even know because some folk don't want to let Big Sister Gorgeous one know. Some people don't want to let big sis know what they up to. But anyways, I've been Miss Sophia the Diva, and this has been my thoughts and ramblings of America's Next Top Model. Stay tuned. I will be back on feeling better, and y'all keep me lifted and my family in prayer. Today, February 22nd, mark the second anniversary, excuse me, of my dad's passing. I'm fine. I'm okay. It's just that it still doesn't feel real. It just, my dad kind of was just always there. Because remember, I've known my daddy since he was 21. He died at 67. Massive heart attack. So, yeah. And I knew things were getting heavy, but I didn't realize. But I'm okay. My siblings are okay. My bonus mom is okay. We're all good. You know, we just miss our dad. And my bonus mom misses her husband. So, you know. So I just, just keep us lifted in prayer. I know my little brother takes it the hardest because he had him the shortest period of time out of me and my sister. So, yeah. Yeah. But I also think today also made me think and kind of even get a little angry about the cruelty of people during that period of time and how honestly in some respects when my father passed and I was living in Reno, it was one of the loneliest, darkest times in my life that I had felt in a long time. And the fact that I really didn't have a support system and that the employer I was working for opted to treat me with so much cruelty. And I just couldn't believe that someone could be that heartless. I remember even when my grandmother died, and here I go into another story because I'm supposed to be signing off. This is Diva. If you're on my channel, you know how I am. But I was thinking, I said, I remember when my grandmother died and I was at a totally different organization I was at for many, many years. And my manager, one of my male managers, he hated me for whatever reason. I don't know why. But even he had sympathy and a heart when my grandmother died, whom I was not in good standing with at the time of her passing. And I'm okay with that because she had her own demons to contend with, and I just wasn't going to be, collateral damage with that. My father's mother, as a matter of fact. But the lack of sympathy and the performative measures they took to lead me to believe that they cared when I got back, but then in the end treated me like something you find on the bottom of your shoe and threw me out like yesterday's trash and completely wrecked my entire stability. I just can't believe someone could be that cruel. And the most fascinating thing about it is that the majority of the people that were complicit in doing what they did are not there because they too got shown the door. Show you how life works. But the only difference is some of those people already had one foot in the retirement gate. So, I mean, they were already pretty established, but it just never made any sense. But it was really lonely. And that's, I realize now why you really need to be prepared for stuff like that. Because, people always will bring you food or send food or something. I didn't have that. I didn't. I had to get it how I live, I just had me and my two dogs in Reno to kind of help mommy. So, yeah, it was bad. But that really, I had to stop. I had to get myself out of that because I said, "Oh, you can't go back down that road again." But it really was a very lonely and dark time, and I'm back on the come up again. I just hate that I had to start over. I hate that my credit just went completely down the toilet because of this, and that prospectively I do worry and wonder, and I shouldn't, because God's got me. He provided me a safety net at the time that it happened, before I completely lost everything and ended up homeless, completely homeless. But it just, I said, it's really sad that people don't take into consideration when someone is actually doing the work and showing up every day, and you are so petty because you don't like black people. Actually, the person who spearheaded all of it, she don't like minorities. Okay, and proudly will tell people that her father was a racist. So I don't know, and you would never think she was. She's great at masking and pretending. But she better hope them twins she got don't grow up. You know what? They might end up marrying black women. I hope they do, or at least one of them do. That they would be one. And honestly, her husband seems to be, quite frankly, just too good to be with her. I'm like, how you end up with this evil bitch? I mean, let's. Anyway, let me get off of that. But anyways, keep me lifted in prayer because, like I said, after my father died, there are some things that happened that I had no control over. And it just shows you how cruel people can be and how life can just. But I'm getting aggressive, trying to get my money up and stack as much money as I can so that won't ever happen again. So I don't ever want to be in a position where I don't know if I'm going to be living in my car. So, anyways, or be in a position where, if a parent dies or a close family member dies, I can't get there and I have to use every amount of resource I can to get there. Just horrible people, just really. But anyways, I miss my dad. Dr. Lurch. He was a member of Phi Beta Sigma. I remember when I pledged AKA, they were like all shocked. I'm like, did you honestly think I was going to pledge Zeta? My mom, when I was growing up, always told me I was an AKA. So she act just like them AKAs at Valley because I'm a product of HBCU parents. Shit, my great, I don't know where my Uncle James went to college, but I know for law school he went to, my great uncle. I know he went to, what's the name of the Chicago? Private law school in Chicago. I forgot what the name of it is. It's not Chicago, it starts with a D. DePaul. Yeah, he went to DePaul for law school. But yeah, but I think everyone for undergrad pretty much went to HBCUs except for myself. And then my little sister, she went to HBCU. I remember I told my dad, here I go. Okay, y'all just let me ramble. Let me cook. Yeah, my little sister went to HBCU. I remember I told my dad, I know what it's like to be black. Now, I wish I had just gone and went to Clark Atlanta. But then again, I'm glad I graduated from the University of Tulsa. I'm glad that I attended the schools like the University of Tulsa because what's happening right now, I'm like, I remember somebody posted on Twitter, my HBCU education did not prepare me for this. And I'm just like, girl, you should have went to a PWI because this goes down all the time. What you see at PWIs, as we call them, versus HBCUs, baby, you learn how to play the game. But I also went to school, the majority of my elementary years was predominantly white schools. And then I went to talented and gifted schools. Like I went to the Science Academy in junior high and went to Law Magnet High School for high school. And while it was predominantly Hispanic and black, we just were on a different mental space too. So yeah. But I went to Tulsa. I remember my dad was like, "Wait, I know people on the board. It's Spelman." And I'm just like, "I don't want to go to Spelman either." Like, no. But now I realize I probably should have, because at least I would have had a free scholarship. And I wouldn't be in so much debt. I don't even know if I'm going to ever pay these student loans. God help me. Um. Anyway, God is a miracle worker. Anyways, I love you guys. I'm getting off here because I need to get ready for work because I feel so good. I'm going to try to get up and go early because I missed 2 days. And when you miss 2 days, your inbox is totally full. And you're like, oh my God. Anyways, I'll be back on here. I don't know when, but it will be this week. It will be this week. Until, hi, 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 hi.